Kia ora koutou, ko Stephen toku ingoa no o Tautahi ao. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Stephen Moe, and I've flown over from New Zealand, and I think it's really wonderful to share our learnings and learn from each other. The little bit of extra context to add is that I come from Christchurch, so we've had some events recently that have seen an outpouring of charitable relief. And so that context has been critical for the shaping of my own thinking. Also, I used to work for an international law firm, and I was based in Sydney. So I was on George Street working, doing major multinational deals and things just a couple of years ago. So I come from the private, acting for banks and corporates, and have worn that hat as well. And since moving back to New Zealand, I've gotten involved much more, shifting gear into the not-for-profit charitable sector. And so things like now I sit on a board called Christian Savings, which is a charitable company which gives loans to churches and other groups. So just to give a little bit of context, I wear multiple hats. But the thing I wanted to, rather than get into detail today, I actually want to step back and talk about paradigm shifts. How many of you remember in the 1990s, you probably had this book. Does that look familiar? Magic Eye, a new way of looking at the world. It took the world by storm. Do you remember? I was, growing up, this literally sold millions of copies for about 6 months in 1993. This was the thing that was on the coffee table. And the point of it was that you could use your eyes to see things in a new way, a new way of looking at something. So those shapes there actually could be something else. And I think where we stand at this point in history is that there are paradigm shifts happening when it comes to charity and business. Tonight, when you're having dinner and you turn to the person to your right, let's just imagine that they say that they are about to start an initiative and it's going to help ex-prisoners reintegrate back into society. Immediately, because you come from the old paradigm, your thinking is going to be charity. It's going to be, that's such a wonderful initiative. Motivations of the heart. It's being driven by purpose. It's helping people come back into society. And how are you going to get your donations? Where are you going to get people to fund you? On your left, you talk with someone. They also have a great new idea. They want to have a new tech solution to credit cards and reduce costs. You immediately start talking to them about incubator programs and entrepreneurship. How many shares are you going to issue in your private company for profit? The mind is what's driving that venture. So in a way, you've got this paradigm. The old way of thinking is you talking here on the right about charity and matters of the heart. You're talking here about profit and company and matters of the mind. And the paradigm shift that's happening is a new way of thinking that says, actually, and this is being driven by the entrepreneurs and the next generation, not by those of us in this room. The new paradigm is saying, actually, surely we can combine the head and the heart, and we can have business which acts for good. So the paradigm shift, like you see here in the picture, is looking at the world in a new way. Looking at the way that we've traditionally thought about business and saying, actually, it should be about doing good. It shouldn't just be about private gain and how much we can return to shareholders in the next quarterly report. And equally, when it comes to charity, rather than being dependent on income streams which are at the whim of the government policy and at the whim of donations, it's about diversifying the income stream to actually say inherently in what we do as an entity, we are fulfilling a purpose. And that could be a charitable purpose. It's advancing a cause through the very action and the existence. Rather than taking money from the private sector to distribute it, it's actually saying through what we do, the entity is actually achieving social or economic good for the community. So that's the new paradigm that's coming, the new paradigm that's about to hit us. And the question that I have then is really, what does that mean for us at policy levels? If the old paradigm and the old way of thinking had to do with a binary of you're either a charity or a for-profit, then what does it mean in terms of the regulations and the rules which govern the very organizations if we're moving towards a new conception where the heart and the mind are combined and for-profit and not-for-profit begin to merge. And we move from extractive economies to regenerative economies where the organizations are actually about giving back to the communities. I'll just leave it there. You'll notice that throughout the talk I haven't used the word social enterprise. That's deliberate because I don't want social enterprise to become a term that's something that they do. I think what we're talking about is bigger paradigm shifts that impact all organizations, and we need to make sure we don't categorize things as labels, because actually we need to move to a point 50 years from now where we see social enterprise as an intermediate step between the old way of thinking and the new way of thinking. Thank you.